Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hi, Dave. Nice to see you.
Jonathan, nice to see you. This is This and That. We are going to discuss everything going on in the skating world this week. Typically, we are on Sunday. We are here early this week, so we made it happen. So please smash that like button and hit subscribe for us. You don't want to miss a day. You miss a lot. You were in a different hotel room last week. It was swapped.
Dave, you are brilliant. Yes, there was like mold in like the bathroom of my other hotel bathroom. And like that stuff will mess with my throat. So I had to switch rooms, but you're very astute. It's flipped.
Do you have a room that you sleep in? Like Mariah Carey, how she had like the humidifier room that she would sleep in during performances?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. Like if I had an unlimited budget, I would do that. Like I almost thought about going to buy like an air purifier.
Are you eternally 12?
What does that mean?
Mariah doesn't age. She has anniversary.
Oh, I definitely age. Like every time.
All right, let's just get into it. Everyone's here to talk about Alyona and the fact that we alluded to it and we knew then, but you know, some things are so crazy, Jonathan.
And they all get mad at you, Dave. You have called like every step of every news cycle like well in advance, and everyone's like, stop spreading rumors. You were totally right.
Yeah, but I knew about it. So, yeah. But you know when you hear something and you think like, that's crazy. And then you hear about it a month later and you're like, that's still crazy. And you hear about it a month later about that. So on May 26th, knowing that we were going to talk about it, I said, hey, Alyona, I think we should chat before this weekend now that things are coming to light. The association with TJ and Delilah is raising a lot of eyebrows, hoping you don't know the full extent.
Let's give her the benefit of the doubt.
It was read, not replied. And usually she replies. Okay, now Benoit, her good friend who's the choreographer, said, oh no, I heard it's all nothing. I listed specific allegations to him, and then there was read and no reply. Now,
yikes.
That's a fact. And I like them both.
Yeah.
It gives this like disgusting.
You like who both? Benoit and Alyona.
Benoit and Alyona.
Yeah.
And for Alyona, she's such an icon and so inspiring. So the German Federation did publish today that she did indeed ask for a release and that they, granted it. Who knows how this all happened? Did they ask for money? Did they not? We don't know about that, but is there favoritism in the US bringing Alyona in? She's still, citizenship is an entirely different thing. The USFS can allow her to compete, but them actually being able to compete in Olympic Games is something very, very different.
Right.
She would be able to compete at a nationals. She would be able to compete for a worlds. I mean, this is all really fascinating, right? This is, now Bruno Massot did not know. And he had a cryptic post about spending time with his family to figure this all out. Because remember, they would have done shows together as well, even though she was very angry about him deciding not to come back. They had a lot of opportunities if they wanted to come back. And then it's just, the timing isn't great. Obviously, maybe he delayed his formal announcement, but he was consistent over the last years that he did not want to come back.
Yeah, there was no question about him not wanting to come back to compete.
Although maybe, between them, it was left more ambiguous or we'll revisit it, but he has not wanted to come back. And that has been consistent. She could have skated with Danny O'Shea. She could have skated with Eric Radford. I mean, think about the things that we do know.
Right.
And the one interesting thing though, is that, maybe we were not easy on Vanessa in terms of that situation, but to Vanessa's credit, when she found out about TJ, like at least publicly, we know that she found out, she deleted her comment and didn't go forward with the tryout. Yeah. So
yeah.
And this was done in a Delilah way. So the same way that they got rid of Kaitlyn Weaver before the 2011 World Championships. Remember, Katie Denny went to visit Haven in Colorado and just happened to, Delilah rented private ice at night and said, oh, why don't you just skate with John around? See how that looks. Everyone in the rink, of course, knows about it, as if one person finds out anything in a rink, everyone finds out something like that. Yes, everyone would find that out. Everyone did know. Kaitlyn was the last to know. And, I think she has her own story about, how it all transpired after that. But that is what went down.
You know what always confused me about that, though? Didn't Kaitlyn and John finish the highest that John ever finished at a world championship?
They did, and
like, do you know what I mean? Like, some of these teams, they seem to be like middling and they like make these moves, but like they seem to be doing.
He was also openly dating Katie as soon as they.
Yeah.
They weren't shy about that on Twitter. If you go back at the time on Ice Network, so.
It just seemed such a weird move. Yeah.
And everyone loved her skating, but I think they maybe thought she had limitations. But what I'm saying is that it's a very disrespectful thing. Now, in this case, there were a number of people associated. Again, it went down the same way. Someone finds out, these skaters all live together. Bryn was skating with TJ. He's had multiple partners that he never even made it to competition with. This is a guy that only won a bronze medal at a junior Grand Prix.
Right.
He hasn't even made it to nationals the last years because of inability to get along with partners. He tossed Sarah Fang aside. Here, they tossed Bryn aside after they got Bryn to dump her partner, skate with him, turn around, and then dump her for Alyona. And now she's, Bryn is going from rink to rink looking at different partners. She's in California this week. She's talked to people in Detroit. She's on the partner lookout.
And even back when we were at Mid-Atlantics, wasn't he just like around because Nina was trying to find him a partner?
Yes, and he was coaching the other teams, which is really interesting based on the numbers of, there are people who have testified against Delilah in investigations that are ongoing.
Yeah.
But they have so many people to talk to.
Right.
That it takes months and months, and we know how slow these things are. This isn't like, they didn't get a few Ross Minor text messages and act quickly. These things take forever with Safe Sport because they're underfunded. And then you begin to wonder, are they underfunded on purpose? Right? How long is this supposed to go on for? I can say that when we interviewed TJ and See Alive, Safe Sport did reach out to me and ask me for a copy of it.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
That's what he's willing to share. Like, that's what was so shocking about that See Alive situation.
He contacted me.
Yeah. He was looking for a platform. Yeah.
So,
I mean, and for those who like are tuning in and like don't really know, like, are there this is just things that like we know about, or these are formal things against TJ that have been brought up through Safe Sport?
I mean, I think the Safe Sport process is ongoing before they actually ever throw down the hammer and say, this is what you're accused of. So it's a very long, annoying process for people, but
we do know he's being investigated.
Yeah, and so is
for several different reasons.
And remember, US Figure Skating allegedly told Tara and Danny to leave. Now they've been knowing about things and looking for other coaches to come in there. Now they can't they're in a weird spot because of the way Safe Sport works and that people don't always go to the cops before they go to Safe Sport, you're in a weird position where if you are a rink, can you directly fire someone without charges, or is that considered,
right,
without cause?
Right.
You get into a really weird situation. I will say that at the World Arena, multiple coaches have told us on the record that in the coaches' room lounge, there was Delilah had a photo with all of her boys shirtless in it. These are just strange things that aren't exactly
kosher. Yeah. Well, and it was interesting because back when we were discussing it on the show, like the eternal optimist in me was hoping that maybe she was being recruited to like run a pairs program for the United States, which would be thrilling because again, I think she has a lot to offer that way. And I sort of like, that's how I made peace with like those rumblings, is I was like, surely she's coming to like set up a program on how to train pairs. And then this would be its own shocking news unto itself, that she was going to return to competition with a US partner. But the fact that it's this problematic partner is really disappointing.
Point, and I know that it's Alyona and she's amazing and we all think she's amazing and we all love her and wish her the best. However, I think from both US figure skating and from Alyona's point, you have to look at this and say, here's someone who had how many partners in the last years? And yes, they think he's this talent and that he needs to just find the right person. But if you've lost so many partners,
on top of all these other allegations and investigations,
are you the problem? Are they the problem? Like,
right.
And then you see he's still putting out music videos where he has, you know, girls in bed with their boyfriends with knives. Like, these are very negative media images about
women. For as much as they're on so many others about their image, they seemingly just don't care about. I mean, the federation had to have been involved, right? They had to have been involved in this pairing.
Well, she had to ask to compete for the US. So
yeah, that's what I mean. And what federation wouldn't want to have her?
So when you go for a release is when the USFS has to get involved. When you go to ask Germany for a release, it's a difficult spot, but.
No, I like her so much.
I know. I think everyone has this reaction, but then you have some pair skaters who maybe don't have the best situations who are attacking people. So, you know, Harley Windsor, the Australian boy whose partner committed suicide recently, was going hard for TJ. Now, he may feel that people accused
him. What do you mean by that, going hard for TJ? In defense of TJ, you're saying? Or against?
Oh, yes. He replied to someone and said, someone that said stand with survivors, and he replied to them, which he doesn't have to, right? This is when you should stay off of social media.
Exactly.
I personally think you're a joke of a human for even saying this. If I say you crashed my car, does that make it true? Step aside and stop shitting on people for facts that you don't know about.
But he does. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Even if they are, let's just for argument's sake, say that these are just allegations. No one has any idea. Everyone loves to say innocent until proven guilty. But you still know that this person has not one investigation, but several different investigations open against him at the same time. It's just a messy situation to start to entangle yourself with.
Yeah.
And again, like, I remember seeing him, like, obviously I'm no like.
Also, how good are they going to do? And I believe that she can coach people to be good. But we have to remember her first season with Bruno, they almost didn't compete. Another coach reminded me of this today. He said they fought so much the first year.
Yeah.
So she's a strong personality, which, you know, a lot of champions, very strong personalities. It takes that to get to the top.
Right.
TJ's a strong personality without the results. Delilah's a strong personality.
Without results. Alyona is alpha in this.
Obviously, Delilah and TJ are hoping that this is their come up because Delilah's only ever had a national champion, not like a world medalist. Obviously, even skating with Alyona, say it gets TJ a silver or bronze medal at nationals. That makes him a national medalist.
Right.
Right. And then you have that status. So it changes his image. And then he's skating with Alyona.
Yeah.
And the way that, I mean, not that they were going to necessarily dump Aljona Savchenko, but they think nothing of disposing of partners.
Yeah.
I think when you look at that, and if you're a US figure skating, are you really going to encourage the up and coming next generation to go to that rink? If you're looking at that situation and it's like a revolving door of disposable people who leave skating, sometimes leave the sport, you know, who you really have to wonder. And
I mean, how old is Alyona now?
I think she's
late 30s.
Years older than I am. Yeah,
She's entering Zoe Jones.
Well, I don't age shame anyone. Like, she can.
No. But what is interesting also is TJ is obviously what, 15 years younger, something like that.
To the graduate, I mean, right?
Yeah, so there's a very,
you just have to look at what's the long-term potential. He's 21, she's 37. She could be his mother, realistically. That is.
But I mean, even aside from just like that age gap, just as you think of like partnership potential, like it's clear they're both looking at a short-term investment here. Like,
yeah, because it elevates his status. They can bring in another girl, then he's king. I mean, this is what this is about.
Yeah.
Although I think I would try to go forever. It also indicates that she probably doesn't love coaching. Yeah,
maybe. Actually, that's a really, really good point. I for some reason, and I
loved coaching and felt fulfilled.
Yeah. She wouldn't
talk about more about athletes not knowing what they want to do. But I'm just I keep thinking about what Elena Bechke said about Tamara telling her not to come back for 94. And I keep just thinking, like, does this? Because
it's not even, Dave, it's not even about the skating, because like you're saying, if it was just about being on the ice doing the skating, she could have an amazing show career with Bruno. She would always be in demand. But it's clear it's all about competition.
Feeling lost and missing competition.
Yeah. And quite frankly, seeing a field where she still feels she could dominate.
And yes, I do think that she could dominate.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But with TJ, no, I don't believe that.
And it was different. Like
I think she could be relevant. And you do have to say, for other skaters in the US, the Audrey and Mishas, maybe not, but certainly like a Mervyn and Olivia, like this diminishes their chances of getting like a Skate America, because think about the Grand Prix situation.
Right.
Skate America, USFS can give them Skate America. They have that right. For the TBD spot, you can give it. And because she's such a big star, other countries may very well invite them to skate. And then that does harm the chances of other pairs. I mean, that's just how this works with the comebacks.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Like,
but knowing their track record, okay, so if you are going to displace other teams, and I'm not saying which team it is and everything like that, but let's say that there's an up and coming team and they get displaced for TJ and Alyona. Sometimes those teams quit because they feel discouraged. They feel we've hit our ceiling. The federation believes in us.
Yeah, exactly.
But then what if this blows up in 6 months?
Right.
He's had many partnerships that have not lasted. So if this blows up in 6 months, and let's say that they did get those spots, and the other team isn't going to continue, then you're out 2 teams for the year after the Olympics. And who's really going to continue? We don't know.
Right.
Are Alexa and Brandon going to continue? I don't think anyone knows until they finish that last note of music at the Olympics.
Exactly.
Or
arguably at that Worlds even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ashley and Tim, what's going on with Tara and Balazs? We haven't seen anything there. All of these different things. Danny and Chelsea. I mean, there are all of these different options there. I think it's great for US figure skating that she wants to come in, but maybe it would have been great 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, and it's tricky because you know what? I'm going to own it. I do remember when we were talking after Sochi and she announced she was going to come back with a different partner. And I thought, oh my gosh, to me on the outside, I was like, that seems crazy. It seems crazy to me, but she must really need to do that. And obviously like
one of the Arena Rodnina personality types. She's strong. She's driven.
Right.
I do think that any physical specimen has limitations with age and mileage.
Right.
I don't know. I would love to see her continue to dominate. We saw Dara Torres skate, swim at an advanced age. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
and again, I'd love to jump on her bandwagon, but she has made it difficult. They have an uphill battle here.
Think about poor Eric Radford. He didn't get to skate with Alyona, and now he doesn't even get to be the one with the most problematic partner situation. I mean, What is he, the Jan Brady of pair skating? Like,
Yeah, maybe they're thankful. Maybe that's the team that's like, thank God that this
heat is off of us. Yeah, unless Christine does like a joint article.
Yeah,
Right?
amazing. Yeah, it's very complicated. It's very complicated, and I feel very torn as someone who wants to root for Alyona.
I know.
I mean, is Delilah coaching them?
What is Delilah going to teach Alyona?
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Yeah, but she gets to now say that she coached Aljona Savchenko.
Right, and that she absorbed her methods and like all this sort of stuff.
With Nina Mosier, or if Nina's still on the payroll, who knows?
Yeah.
But then think about it. If that situation changes, are they hoping that Alyona takes over the school when she's done skating? Does Miss Kuchanak take over? What do they do with Colorado?
Yeah.
Natalia Muskuchanak has a daughter, Natasha, who's a talented pair girl coming up. They have other talented people in the rink. I just look at people like Mark Sadusky and I'm like, what are you doing there? They took your partner. You're still there. You're living with the person who took your partner.
Right.
And then now he's skating with Alyona. They clearly are not worried about you.
Right.
You are a pawn in this situation.
Yeah, if you were in,
and why are they so tied to TJ when he is a good jumper? He has a charisma. He's not wow. Okay, he's not like Daisuke Takahashi. Even moving to ice dance, he is wow. Right? TJ is a good jumper.
Yeah.
Has a nice face. Right? Like a good, not the strongest guy in the lift. He used to like squat in the twist to make it look higher even than it was. Yes, training with Alyona, I do think will make him stronger and make him develop, but
yeah. I mean, if you were in US pairs right now, would you want to be in California? Would you want to be with Jenny and Todd? Because I mean, that seems to at least be the healthiest training option.
Yes.
And they seem to have,
or Detroit, but I think Jenny and Todd seem to have a much more stable school.
Yeah. Scandal free, certainly by comparison. Yeah.
I would say that it seems more stable.
Okay.
It seems to have just a good management situation. I mean, every rink has problems.
Yeah, but, of course.
I think that's where I'd go looking for a partner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have Kristen Lerum throw me up in a twist. I'll look amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
It seems more positive.
And now all of this, so, I mean, we obviously kind of knew from sources before this all happened, but right now the only official source is the German Federation saying, okay, yes, she's asked for the release for the US. And then another German paper was the one that specified TJ, right? Mm-hmm. But there's been no like formal announcement, and they're trying for this summer and they're trying for next season. And their goal is.
Think about it. TJ's partner knows because Delilah's the one who dumped her, allegedly. And she has been trying out and contacting different coaches. Don't you think they're going to ask, oh, weren't you skating with TJ? What happened?
Right.
That's how this news leaks out. It's not that complicated.
Right. I just wonder when they're going to try to like make their move on the circuit.
I mean, they don't have a lot of time. And the reason you think of the timing of this announcement is because the Grand Prix assignments are coming out soon.
Yeah.
So that's why this is breaking.
No. And I mean, quite frankly, if you're Skate Canada, if you're the Russian Federation, you don't want to invite them.
Yes, you do.
But see, in my opinion, yes, she may want to make a splash, but if you're in Canada and you need to protect your own pairs, or if you're in Russia and you're trying to bolster your own pairs, you don't need Alyona coming in.
Japan, because they don't have really strong.
And that's why I think like
they have one team that's, in the mix. That really, but they don't. they're not at risk of making the Grand Prix final, most likely this year. So I think that would be a federation. I think Russia often invites really talented.
But they're going to be protective of their Paris spots, I think. I want to think they make sure.
Or they might view it as an opportunity to defeat the great Alyona Savchenko at home.
Okay.
How is she going to be with her new partner?
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at you can kind of flip it, right? I don't think Canada would invite her, maybe not. But I think someplace like Russia, they would love it.
Okay.
Sweep the podium. What if Alyona gets 5th place at a Grand Prix? They would love it.
Okay. Yeah. If they could guarantee that.
You get to knock her down a bit, right?
I wonder if she was looking in Russia also, or if she just always had her sights set on the US.
There's a lot of money to be made in the US in terms of coaching.
Okay.
Even if we don't have the most skaters, it's a great opportunity.
Okay. Especially for growth, because again, there's not too much happening at the moment.
I mean, so
here goes.
I mean, Mitch has asked many coaches to go to Colorado.
It just seems toxic.
Yeah.
It's the last place I'd want to go, for sure.
Well,
in any discipline. So
I guess we're not going to get any more like drawings from her husband. Like, I don't know. She and Bruno unfollowed each other on Instagram. So that's the latest. Yes.
Oh, so again, there's turmoil in this. Does that mean Bruno wants to bring his baby on TSL and talk to us about it?
Oh man. Oh man. She even got him that nice Porsche for the baby. Remember that Porsche car? We made the joke about.
Right. Yeah. Because again, like you're saying, now his show opportunities are gone. And
did you notice that Plushenko is no longer a Porsche ambassador and now he's a BMW ambassador? Did Porsche leave him just like the skaters?
It was all a truce of his dad. Yeah. Porsche wanted to be.
Notice that? I was like, wait a second, you're a Porsche guy.
Yeah. But I liked his little article that we read this week, where he was talking about the sparkle in the eye, because it's interesting. Like, we've gotten slammed on the show from certain Russian viewers because we'll say things like, where is the sparkle? Where is the joy in the skating? And they're like, we don't want our skaters to go around smiling like idiots like Jason Brown. And I was like, I do. I want to see the joy of the craft in someone. I don't want to see like dead eyes when performing.
They consider it skating with soul. So they use a different form. That.
Their dead eyes is not soulful.
No,
it's not
but they're feeling attacked, and that's why they make that statement.
Yeah,
but Russians talk more about skating with soul. We might say joy because they used to say that about Michelle Kwan. And then people that were Michelle Kwan fans would shade Sasha Cohen by saying that she was dead in the eyes. And then of course Dick
she had fire in the eye. It was totally different in my opinion.
Yeah, but remember when she would make mistakes, remember Dick made the comment that she was smiling, but the eyes weren't smiling.
Okay. A lack of smizing, if you will. Yes. Okay.
Talking about that the smile wasn't genuine.
Got it. Fair enough. But like, it was interesting to hear that from his point of view, because, he was always someone that schmacked it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, Yarrow, Todd Eldred's student, has officially been added to the ISP. So that makes this show interesting.
Yeah.
Also, the selection for Nebelhorn came out. So skaters who didn't qualify for the free skate at Worlds are eligible to compete at Nebelhorn.
Which is an announcement for Vincent. Yeah, okay.
Gets a second chance.
Okay.
You send it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you have a test skate with him before?
Well, here's the thing that I can... If we're just going off of that he was really injured before the Worlds, and there are some people say that his mom either would have told him to post that as, a reason for his performance or had him compete injured. But and remember when Rachel Flatt got fined for competing injured? All of that is like, you don't forget that stuff, right? Like, what was that all about? Because he just said that he was injured in the preparation for this, and we have alternates. Like, what? right?
For that very reason. Yeah.
So if someone showed up at a Worlds and felt that they weren't prepared because they were injured, are you going to trust that they're going to go to another Olympic qualification to be prepared? I mean, that's the question in my head. Mm-hmm. That's where these athletes, when they post these things, you're like, wait a second, like, what did you just actually say?
Right. That you were going to wing it anyway.
Yeah.
Message there. Yeah.
And granted, I do think that if you earn an event, you want someone to be able to compete. But if you're in charge of such an important thing like qualifying to, there's a certain level that you need to be able to perform at for it to be fair for you to go.
Right.
If you don't feel that you can do that, I don't believe it's ethically right to go. Now, his post is what led into question, right? Like, when he performed poorly, it was surprising, right? But yes. No one was saying, oh, we shouldn't have sent him, until he posted that on Instagram. And then everyone said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why did he say that?
Right.
And don't we have alternates? And why didn't he withdraw if he felt that way? And that is fair, right? Like, if you're going to put that out there, and granted, they may not.
Our alternate, because it wasn't Yarrow, was it?
No, he couldn't compete at that point.
Okay.
I don't think, no. Wasn't it? Yeah.
For all we know, they did tell him he was injured, and they told him to go anyway.
Wasn't it like Camden or someone?
They still felt that like an injured Vincent was still putting us in better stead than a lesser alternate. I mean, that's also a little bit of a difference here. It was a different story when we had like when the Max Aaron, Jeremy days, like all this sort of stuff. When you kind of have four guys that were all sort of in the mix, it could have been more viable to send an alternate. Even when we sent like Grant or something like that, you still knew there was going to be like. Sure, but if you had sent
Grant was in the top 12, right? He didn't do pretty well, yeah.
Yeah. But I think if you were to have sent someone like Camden, you were asking for a big implosion.
Or it could be a great opportunity for Camden, right?
Step up. Although he's had several before. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I could see how even with that information that people could have thought that an injured Vincent still would have done better.
Also about Plushenko. When he said that he felt that Trusova deserved to win nationals, in his mind, she was the winner. I'm like, well, this is a man who awarded himself a platinum medal after the So, you know what? Again, give her one. Okay.
Yeah, just have your sideline awards for every event that ever existed.
No, Trenkov did let us know that Tarasa Morozov would not likely be going to Zueva before the Olympics. And I thought, of course not. They're with eteri. Danny G is going to do the program. Hello. Right. It's about funding. It's about reputation. Right?
Yeah. Well, but maybe it was just a dumb question to have been asked in general. Like with those sorts of things, I never know if they're really like offering that as news or if like just some crazy person asked them.
You never know.
One never knows. One never knows. Again, Marina or not, I don't think that was really the issue at play with that particular team.
I just think there are a lot of queens.
I'm listening.
In that situation. Marina, absolute queen.
Yeah.
Absolute not. Okay.
Yeah.
Eteri, a queen. Absolutely not.
Danny G. Max.
Not at that level yet. But
even Trenkov has an ego to his coaching. Do you know what I mean? So you got a lot of big energies in that.
But we've already seen Danny G choreograph for them. I mean, maybe they would bring in an Averbuk or someone, but.
Well, he mentioned in the article it was Eteri.
Oh, who's going to choreograph?
Eteri and Julin. Eteri and Julin, he said.
Okay, well.
We're going to do the program.
It's much cheaper than bringing in someone, Zueva in the US. It's much cheaper.
Right. Exactly.
So, anyway, moving on. Also, Alexia Paganini officially announced that she did leave Lambiel, which I think we knew when she deleted everything from her Instagram. But what she didn't say in her announcement is she's actually being like overseen by Nikolai Morozov, who also did, who is choreographing for her.
Okay.
But George Schipper is in Zurich, is going to be doing like the day-to-day jump work with her. So
she's training in Switzerland.
Yeah, in Zurich. Now it's interesting because Michael Christian Martinez is also working with Nikolai Morozov, but he's being coached on the day-to-day by Roman Serov in Montclair. And it's because Nikolai's like coming back as a coach. He's starting with these other countries, but
and there's these ebbs and flows like we talk about, like
he picked off a couple of easy ones, right? That he's
very problematic, a very problematic figure. However, what has disappeared from the competitive circuit is his aesthetic. And his aesthetic really worked for a lot of people. And so somehow bringing his aesthetic back will feel like something new, even though it might be something more familiar. But I think that like we've missed that sort of energy, that sort of take on those programs, something a little bit more flashy.
Oh, he has all the flash.
Right? Do you know what I mean? When's the last time we've like seen like a whole series of like Morozov programs? It's been a while. They're definitely high energy, if nothing else.
You know, Annabelle hasn't had that much flash. She had more flash in her rhythm dance last year. The free didn't have enough
exactly.
flash. I wanted more.
Exactly. But especially in singles, I mean, he's been, you know, he had some really
smoke and mirrors better than anyone. Remember Nobunari Oda when he did the Chaplin program? Come on.
He can create a memorable step sequence. That's for sure.
Also, a funny story. I didn't even tell you this. So I go to Parabolic upstairs at Montclair, and on Monday mornings, the Israeli Federation, because they have their own rink that they skate up, and they all warm up together. Evgeny Krasnopolsky, Jonathan, has had 3 different partners in a month.
Could be difficult.
Now, whether or not those girls were sent off, left, jury is out.
Wow. Okay. That's a revolving door. That's a revolving door.
I just know that there are people that we see and they disappear and other people come back, and you start to because Paige Connors was skating with him for a while. Paige was actually doing the Pasquale Carmelango program that he had gotten with Anna that he was skating with. And I believe his new partner is now working on the same program. So at least they're being economical.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like a just add water, but it's just a partner here. Yeah.
Who knew that there were so many girls? And apparently like the Paige Connors, like how she got Israeli citizenship is a hysterical story about like, you know, how Jewish is Paige Connors. Like that's a story for like the ages, right?
Okay. Fair enough.
One drop of water, you know, like spoils the whole, right? Isn't that what's the saying, right? So you think like, do New Jersey girls with Israeli citizenship, like, do they grow on trees? Like, what is this? And do you just think that you can like, okay, if you can just plug in a girl from like, who only competed on the junior circuit for Israel, right? And she can skate with Evgeny, and she skated like junior singles and can skate. Oh, and I think it was junior singles, right? Let's just think, even if it was junior pairs, if you could put someone together in mid-June, and they're going to compete at the end of September, October for an Olympic spot and earn it, is this all a joke?
In dance? Like, I mean,
no,
it's
in pairs.
Oh, in pairs, excuse me. Okay.
And is it all about funding from the Israeli government? Like, is that what the real motivation is, right? Because they fund the federation. So then you have to wonder, like,
what it is not about is the integrity of the discipline as an art form. I mean, how could it be? How could it be?
I mean, what integrity? But anyway.
Well, kind of. And again,
talking about Alyona and TJ and whatever. But like, literally, you see Evgeny warm up and like the faces just change. Like, what is happening?
Fill-in lady here. Yeah. That's.
And granted, like Paige is in college, maybe she just decided I've had enough, right? Like you know, it sounded fun, but not into it so much. But you just wonder, should we just let like 5 Russian teams compete? Because if you're able to put together like a
I've always said that. I have always said I would rather see more from a top country than slap together teams from another. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And I know that, okay, the thing is, and we talk about this a lot, and then actually, I just remember Jim Castic getting really upset about this when girls from this gym started to compete for Belarus, and they were just, because they had they were not Belarusian, right? And people started playing these games. You know, it's ostensibly to encourage diversity of nations at the Olympics, right? But in actuality,
the German Federation that had its medal winners in Ukrainian Alyona and French Bruno. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, right? It becomes a joke.
Yeah. And quite, I mean, I understand its origins. I understand that like it's trying to give a voice to smaller countries with like less opportunity and things like that. But like at the same token, if the Olympics is truly to be the finest in the sport, as we've said several times, why do we not have 6 Russian women there? Mm-hmm. You know, I don't need to see, you know, lesser skaters from other federations. And I know people talk about equality and stuff, but it's the Olympics. Like, this is supposed to be the moment.
The thought is great, but what winds up happening is that these federations often can't really fund skaters. So someone with a rich parent gets the ball rolling by getting citizenship from another country that they may or may not have ancestry from, starts competing, and then they all of a sudden are Olympian. And does it really matter if a girl from New Jersey or a girl from Virginia representing Brazil competes for Brazil? Does it really help the Brazilian Federation, right?
Right. And like you're saying, sometimes does it really help the girl? If she's guaranteed the spot.
I get that it's a game and people are just playing by the rules that are written, right? And oftentimes some of these, okay, so it works both ways. Some of these skaters may have very well, if they're in a paired discipline or they're, you know, if you're the 10th place skater in Russia, you may be able to compete at the Olympic, you might be Olympic level in terms of performance ability, but not Olympic level in that country because you're not in the top 3, right? But like you're good enough to compete at the Olympics. You compete for Azerbaijan, you go. Typically, I think what we see happen is if you look at someone, I've noticed with skaters, when they go to other countries that are smaller and they don't have the competition, oftentimes they don't really seem to reach their athletic potential because the carrot is not there.
The drive isn't there. Yeah, of course. The spot is guaranteed in some ways.
It does seem to affect them psychologically.
Yeah.
Even though you don't think it should, you're getting to go to all of these big events, right? But
and I'll forever remember, like, I thought that the Japanese men's nationals in 2014 was more competitive than the Olympics practically.
I wonder what it does to your self-esteem, right? As an athlete. If you know, am I really Brazilian? Do I really know this language, right?
Or did I earn this the way everyone else has? Yeah.
Do you feel less than? Do you have imposter syndrome when you're there?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think people would have, I think different people feel different ways.
Right.
But you do wonder that, right? And is there something to your confidence if you've worked hard enough to get a US spot or get a spot in Russia or Japan, and you make it out of a very difficult country or Canada, and then you go on to compete, is that a different level of confidence? No. Is that a different level of self-action?
I mean, it's its own level of tokenism in a way, and and you may feel that.
The Olympics are so corrupt.
I know. It can be crazy. And again, like you're saying, I understand it in principle, but knowing that, but also knowing I enjoyed seeing the partnership between a Bruno and an Alyona. I don't want like a great pair partnership not to be able to happen because of borders, not to be able to happen because he was flunking his German language test. Do you know what I mean? Like at some point, thinking of it as a bigger art form, it's sort of like, I don't know, like, can we just scrap the country bit? Like, I just want to see like who's really good with who and who can do what the best.
You know that I skate with. She's an ice dancer, lovely girl. She's from Central Jersey-ish. She's going to compete for Azerbaijan. They're finding guys from France, and you're like, wait a second. There's no, what is going on? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard to like mentally wrap your head around it, but you see it all the time.
Right.
That's why
But again, I would love to.
It's why Neville Horn is so great and hilarious, because you're just like, this is a mess.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, because Dimitri Alia had that big article come out too, where he was talking about how much weight there is on Neville Horn now.
Yeah.
That again, this is going to be like maybe a more iconic event than some of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isadora Williams gave an interview for Krieger Street, and she didn't sound that confident about it. And I wondered if it had something to do with the fact that there's going to be such heavy competition. No,
Right.
at Neville Horn, it's going to be different than it was in the past.
Yeah, it is not just a cute Challenger B series like it used to be. Like this is going to be cutthroat. People are showing up.
And then in other news, stuff that we had heard for a long time, but it never been confirmed, Kaitlyn Weaver came out today and announced that she identifies as queer. And she said that it took her a really long time. And over the last year, she's really come to terms with it. And remember, we had always said that there was something off in that chemistry with Andrew Poche.
Or that it seemed performative instead of, yeah, something heavy-handed about its interpretation.
And she did say that she, hopes to be an example for queer women in the sport. And if you think about it, there are many out queer men in skating.
Right.
For women, very few.
Right.
Very few.
Right.
So this is actually a very big deal, because if you think about it, there are many queer men, and in some sense, that's become accepted in skating and almost expected to a degree. But queer women, really, there haven't been many. So I think it is a really big deal. So
I mean, not that we should like reduce it to just making lists, but like the only people in the US in any sort of recent history that I recall is when Amber would come out with an occasional article, or the ice dancer, the Sweet Dreams ice dance team.
Things are changing. So you see it, and good for her. And she seems very happy and free. And I saw her choreographing, and she was bringing out this girl, the Billie Eilish, recently. And, this girl was living her best angsty teen life. I mean, it was the kind of girl you could just picture having a live journal back in the day, right? Putting it all out there. So,
and in Manhattan, she was taking pictures in front of the Met, actually. Yeah.
She's living her best life. Okay. So, all right. Well, there's been a lot of other stuff going on. Allegedly, Nathan is going to do one event, and the team event is expected to do one. They're changing the schedule for the Olympics, perhaps. It's moving around. That is expected. But there's been a lot happening in gymnastics this week, and diving, and all sorts of stuff, Jonathan.
So I want to ask you, because I want to ask in skating terminology, what the situation here is with Morgan Hurd. Excuse me.
All right.
So
first of all, let me just start with this, and then we'll go in. The level set. The one difference between skating and gymnastics is that gymnastics is a multi-step process to make the Olympic team. They used to have these camps that they no longer have a camp that's called the final selection, which is awful if you studied US history, or world history, European history. But anyway, they now do the nationals and the Olympic trials. And people have asked me about this in the last weeks to explain it to them. I get a ton of messages. I'm like, for figure skating people, like a go-to person to ask. So the difference between this is that there's like a warm-up event qualifier. It's called the US Classic. It was the GK US Classic this year. That's like a sectionals to get to nationals, and they had it 2 weeks before. It's akin to like the Challenger in Canada, where anyone can go, and then they go to the next. So this competition qualifies people to the nationals, which they had. It was always called championships for a while. It's now nationals is becoming more of a term in gymnastics, and then skating, they decide the Olympic team there, right? But they don't do that in gymnastics. They have another event 3 weeks later, and it would be, let's say we took the top 8 skaters, if we're going for 3 spots, 9, 10 skaters, and had them compete again in a huge arena, branded the Olympic trials with it on the line. Skating is one of the only events that doesn't have an Olympic trials.
And what's so funny is like, I often just like,
and you'll often see articles where it like makes me cringe always. Well, they'll like be like, Ashley Wagner failed at the Olympic trials, but was named to the team. And you're like, well, it is an Olympic trial. Like, ostensibly by the Olympic Committee that is like an Olympic trial, but it's really called the Nationals. So anyway, they have another event. Now, there's also a little different in gymnastics. They have the ability to select the team. The top 2 finishers are guaranteed to make the team at the trials, but 3 and 4 are not. So we're going to talk about someone named Jade Carey in a minute, and that's a whole other story. But you had a situation where Morgan Hurd is a very beloved gymnast. She won a competition called the American Cup. It's like roughly the gymnastics equivalent of Skate America.
Okay.
And then we had the pandemic. And the Olympics were supposed to be last summer, but they're moved a year. She's also had 7 elbow surgeries. And unfortunately, she had elbow surgeries in October and then 2 in March. She was also protesting during this time. I started to feel something was up with her. And I even reached out to someone who I know that works on series, behind the scenes, the all around series. I noticed that something was up when they had I noticed that something, she wasn't posting a lot for a while. And she's someone that is very active typically on social media. It's just like a sign. When you see something change in someone's behavior, you're like, wait a second. Then I noticed that we weren't seeing the training clips, which we were seeing from other people. Yeah, right. And then 100 days out of the Olympics, all of the gymnasts on the national team posted training clips. Morgan only posted a photo and reposted other people's. And I had already suspected that something was up with her. And you think, oh, like, you know, what is this? And people were kind of whispering, but not wanting to say. And she's a very beloved person and obviously the top athlete at her gym. So people there feel uncomfortable about saying or whatnot. But it had been very clear that she hadn't been to camps and hadn't really been participating. But she also didn't actually let her fans know about her surgeries until right before. And she did give interviews to podcasts about the anti-Asian hate protesting that she was doing. Now, I think to use her voice and your platform is fantastic. What stuck out to me about it was that here's someone who is in the last months before the biggest competition of their life. And are you really mentally and physically focused? I know myself getting ready for adult nationals, how freaking tired I am all the time to recover, right? And yes, you have youth on your side, but you're training for the Olympics, right? And you just wonder, like, maybe on some level, she kind of felt it, that it wasn't going to happen, right? And you feel for someone because the Olympics were moved. She likely would have made that team last year. Although she didn't make the 2019 Worlds, you know, she just wasn't on her game there. And, you know, it's all about peaking, and she was good and she won a Worlds. She wasn't necessarily the favorite, but she was one of the top people there and she performed well. And on that day won. And then she's been a consistent competitor and she's smart and she's funny and she reads and she just seems like there's more going on than some of the other athletes intellectually, at least that she lets us know. There's also been like, it's just hard because she's supposed to go to college, but there's been rumors that she wanted to go pro, but obviously now that's off the table. She's going to be on the Simone Biles tour in the fall and defer and compete in college in the spring. But what happened at nationals is that she fell on balance beam twice, both days.
That was a tough watch for me as someone, again, who's on the outside. There was just something that clear, even though I don't understand that it was like that much easier than everyone else's, like the kind of errors though were pretty egregious, even for my eyes. Yeah.
She did do great at the classic meet, but you could say there's just not a lot of time between these meets realistically to get that much better. There's the whole, it's hard because like on one hand, I would love to see her at the Olympic trials. I feel, but I also don't know some of the athletes that were like number 17 or number 16. I don't know that they deserve it that much more than she does. Now, for them, it might be a great opportunity to have this experience. There is going to be a world championships in the fall. Morgan is not going to do it because she's going to be on that tour, right? So for them, this experience of competing at Olympic trials may develop them. And that might be smart to have them there. Now, Chelsea Memel didn't make the Olympic trials, even though she's a huge fan favorite, and she's going to keep going. What I don't like is that Tom Forster is in this role, and a lot of fans don't like him because they don't think that he's very strategic. And a lot of the coaches haven't trusted what he's saying. He's been a politician. He's trying to be like the nicer Marta. But at the end of the day, we saw things in the summer of 2019 where he had athletes like Riley McCusker who wound up getting rhabdo. But you have to, and like her coach was blamed, but you have to wonder, he had them competing at so many meets over a short period of time. And some girls did the all around all those times because they didn't trust that Tom wasn't just going to go by the numbers at the end of the day because he doesn't want to be seen as the bad guy. Right? He doesn't want to like pick the team and then have to get blood on his hands, which Marta didn't care about at all. She would get blood on her hands and be like,
stand by it. Yeah.
Who can, you know, this is the team.
Yeah.
And I think people are like, wait, but we've been in a strategic mindset. He's still saying he's sort of strategic, but no one trusts that they know the rules of the road. And it's interesting, like, you know, he sometimes just goes by the results. Sometimes he is strategic. And it's an uncomfortable situation. Marta would have said, no, do 2 events here, do 2 events here. And she would have actually worked and been smarter and better than he is. And I think that that's the part of Marta that people miss, even though to mention that and the abuse and everything and that, but he's a person who's in a strategic role, who's not acting strategically. In fact, he's acting wishy-washy and sometimes passive aggressive. So this really came to light with the petitions because they always announce who's going to go to trials at the end of the nationals. So Morgan Hurd had only competed at 2 events at the nationals. Riley McCusker only did bars, but her petition was accepted. She was immediately added to the national team. Morgan wasn't, Chelsea wasn't, she was petitioning, and Lori Hernandez was petitioning. He didn't take those people to the national team. But when he was asked about it by the press at the end of the meet, he wouldn't own up to the fact that he didn't deny their petitions. And he was like, no, the petition process isn't concluded yet. And these journalists are on social media and they said, well, Morgan Hurd's friend, Heath, a gymnast from Australia, is saying that her petition was denied. And he immediately shut up and said he didn't want to talk about it until he talked to the athletes first. Now, Heath like deleted that tweet, of course, like, oh God, like you're getting me in trouble, whatever.
Right.
Then they asked Chelsea Memel on Twitter, oh, when did you find out that your petition was denied? And she said, they told us right after the meet, before they lined the people up. So then he lied. So then now you really can't believe what he's saying. And he has a history of being kind of wishy-washy. He's the one that in 96 at the trials has a whole vignette about how he wanted athletes on the team for him. It was very clear that it was his dream to be fulfilled more than it was the kids. So it just gives like a very uneasy feeling. He goes to these meets and he's taking selfies with top gymnasts around the world and then posting them on Facebook. And he's like giving a narrative where he's constantly doing PR to everyone on Facebook and like almost excusing bad performances. He just doesn't seem like the right person. But if Simone wins gold, how are you going to kick him out of the job? He's going to see, you're going to think like, oh, he's so good.
Right.
He's so good.
Right.
And remember, the head coach of Russia said recently that Simone's like, you know, half the US team. If you don't have her, they're not that good. Well, based on the performance.
And is that true? Is that true?
Based on the performance of the nationals, it would be way more competitive without Simone. And I think we're going to find out at the Worlds afterwards how right or not they were. Because the US athletes it's like a post-Olympic Worlds. Like the top people, they're going to win. If they win gold, they're not going.
Right. Okay.
You know, they're going on the Simone tour. They're not, you know, they're cashing in. So now we have a situation. We need to talk about Jade Carey. So, would you let Morgan go if someone's a world champion from the past?
Well, my question to you, Dave, is like, what's it to them if she competes at the trials? Like, this wasn't a petition to be on the team. This was just a petition to just try and go. I mean, is this more along the lines of Mrs. Hahn saying Tessa heard a gunshot or something? Like, is it like, I just thought from
a little more, it's a little more nuanced than that. What they're saying is they don't believe that she could ever be Olympic ready in 3 weeks.
And maybe that's true.
I don't believe
I
don't believe she has a chance to make this team, right? But I don't know that she doesn't deserve to be respected for her contributions and allowed to compete there. But then I also have a part of me that says it's a sport.
Well,
And
it's
felt
not a consolation prize. So if they're like, we don't think you can get ready quick enough, and may not even be ready to be on like a world selection team, like if you're not really, this is one of those things
I
that
don't like that he just didn't own it. What I don't like is that he didn't just say to the press, we didn't feel that she could be Olympic ready. We really thank
in a short period of time.
in a short period of time, you know, it's been so sad that she's had to have all of these injuries. And we really, you know, hope that she can come back at full strength. We'd love to have her back. You know, we're really sorry. You know, we hope that she takes the time to get healthy. And this is a huge bummer for us and them. She's been a great athlete for us. He didn't say that.
Right.
He almost acted like, so wait, you actually did make a blunt move and then you tried to hide behind it, right? Marta, whether or not she said we thank her for contributions, would have been like, we don't think she was good enough in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
You get an answer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not saying that she's a saint by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
You get an answer, right? So that makes me feel really uncomfortable about him.
Okay.
It gives off a vibe that I don't trust.
Okay.
Right? But now in a weird situation, and there was a controversial article that came out this week, is that there was a situation where Jade Carey, she had to make a decision a couple years ago because this new process came out that the FIG, which is the ISU of gymnastics, the International Gymnastics Federation, they have a selection process for specialists that they put in where someone could automatically secure themselves a spot, an individual spot, but they can't be on their team's Olympic team that gets a team medal. So there's this whole thing where there are team members and individuals and this whole thing. They already are not going to do it for the 2024 Olympics. They're only doing it for this Olympics. It was supposed to be so great. They believed in it so much, they decided not to do it in the future. Right? So they're going along this route. Jade decided not to go to the 2018 World Championships and did this World Cup route, which would be like going to different Skate Americas, only not all the top countries actually go to Grand Prix events, that they're trying to obviously build them up. And they use this as a way to qualify for the Olympics and try to increase attendance at these events and yada, yada. She decided to go. The federation wasn't happy about it, but they weren't in a place. And she maybe didn't think that she was necessarily going to get a spot on the team in 2020. And she won a number of competitions on the vault. And because of that, she guaranteed herself a spot. Now, what's really tricky, and this is wishy-washy Tom, and them not creating rules around this, she's allowed to compete at the Olympic trials to earn a spot on the team, to go for the team. And if she's top 2, she can theoretically make it. Now, will the judges ever let her be top 2? She's not that good on bars and beam. Are they just going to lower her scores? But theoretically, she could make this spot. Do I think they would ever put her in the top 2? No. I don't think she's at any risk of being top 2 unless everyone falls apart, which it was a gross meet at the Nationals. And she's relatively consistent, but I think they would make sure one way or another she didn't get the score she deserved. Because if she chose to be on a spot, in all of the wisdom, the country would lose that guaranteed spot. And then we, instead of having potentially a maximum of 6 gymnasts, we'd only have 5.
Oh, because they wouldn't be able to replace that other spot.
No. And that's what people are like so upset about. Nancy Armour called her selfish. I think she's just using the rules that have been written. And
again, even like we were talking about these other people like country hopping.
It was dumb. They didn't let her go to the 2018 Worlds, but they did let her go to the 2019 Worlds. Like, this is like the dumbest thing. Like, no consistency with these organizations. There's, what is this? It shouldn't take 50 years to like explain how someone made it, right? In this case study. Ridiculous. The whole thing is a joke, okay, in my opinion.
And what a weird rule that it would like negate one whole other spot.
That's what really is just.
Yeah. And whose rule is that? That's the Olympics rule or the
FIG's rule.
Okay.
Which.
Sure. That's an odd rule.
So
I just, again, their argument being that you knew that that was the rule.
I mean, yeah, she did make a choice.
I mean, are you just trying to get it no matter what, any way you can? Is that like
the US have been upset for her for even doing this in the beginning because of like the losing or like what if she gets injured, but she did earn it. And
but is she just an athlete trying to cast a wide net and make sure
the US set certain criteria of someone having to be like a medal winner at the Worlds to go for it, and she met that criteria and went for it. And based on how shady they are with picking teams, who's to say she wasn't the smartest one of the bunch? And she was consistent and she earned it.
This guarantee, yeah.
So, but people have very mixed feelings about this whole mess. So it's definitely
messy.
Yes.
That's messy.
Yeah, it's and then we had Simone Biles' series comes out this week, so that's very exciting. It's on Tuesday on Facebook. Artur Danilian is going to skate to Scheherazade. He was surprised to get offered this music, but it's like everyone.
I look forward to seeing him do that.
I love him as a skater. I hope he can restore to full power and compete and do well. And,
yeah, that would be lovely. And Aliev did not say what he was doing for the short, but he did say it was classical, which seemed hopeful to me. And then of course there was like one of those like hilarious like Russian choreographic stories behind it about finding starlight and like all this stuff. And I was like, can you just land your damn jumps and be pretty, please? Like,
oh, I'm so excited for the season.
Oh, I know, and it's already beginning. It's beginning.
It's beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've been watching the diving at night. I put it all on my I pulled a Jenny Kirk and did like a play.
I loved it. Dave, don't stop doing it though, because like
but there were a lot. I know it was excessive, but I was
not, because again, they're also such short things. And if we're in it, we're in it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I know they're going to be a diving series now. I can always swipe if I don't want to watch the diving series. I wanted to watch the diving series because again, I feel like it's a beautiful art form. It was something I always enjoyed watching. And the more I know about it, the more I appreciate it. The more I can tell, like, I'll forever remember being a little kid and that lady first telling me not to look for a lot of splash, you know, and you're
that's
like-
Cynthia Potter, and she's still there and she still like, talks about that splash.
Now I know what to look for, or, you know, the extra hop. Like, I want to become an informed, again, that's what the skating lesson initially did for me with all of that IJS stuff. Once like we tackled it, I was like, okay, now I can enjoy this at that next level. So please don't stop doing the diving story.
And I interviewed Scott Downey this week, who was an Olympic silver medalist in 1992 in the platform. He was 4th in the springboard in 96. He was so funny because we were talking about springboard diving and he was like, oh, I think it's a joke. And he was like, they're just diving at the same time, but it's often not very synchronized. And I thought, and he was like the nicest guy. And for someone to give like an honest opinion, like in skating, that would be so controversial for you to even say that. That's like talking about the medal. That's something that someone would only say to you privately. You would loved him. Loved him.
Amazing.
Such a nice guy. Taught us so much about diving, about why they have.
Could you imagine if one of the athletes came out and they're like, the team event? Oh, it's so annoying. It's so stupid. It just tires everyone out. And it's like, doesn't really feel like a real bronze medal. Like, it's just whatever. Yeah.
World War. Okay.
Yeah,
that
100%. 100%.
So he's talking to us about the chamois and how some people like so they want their body dry, but then they want a little bit of moisture on their hands because it acts like sticky. Because we were asking him like, you know, there's a lot of like, if you notice when you watch the diving, there's a lot of like, getting wet and drying off that's happening.
Yes.
You notice this, but he said some of it's about killing time, some of it's about getting the right moisture, about your body.
Energy, I would think, yeah.
Like, okay, you're up on the diving board and they're like chamoising down, then they dive in the pool right after, right? And you get like, okay, that's to grab your legs, like stuff like that. And but then they throw the chamois in the water, they pick it up, then they go immediately to the showers. Some of them dry off, and he's like, oh yeah. And then sometimes between dives, we dive in the pool and then come out. So this is very involved. And some of them have very involved hairstyles, Jonathan. So are they doing their hair before each dive? I would be.
Mine would be like this big. Like, oh my
There's
God.
like, think about it. Your hair is not staying. Okay.
Right. Well, most of them have short hair though, don't they?
Like Michael Hickson and them, like they had some involved dues going on.
I would imagine you cannot use product.
No, but like, and the men seem to really be styled.
I remember watching, there was one.
I don't mean to be like rude to the ladies, but the diving men seem way more like waxed and coiffed and like everything is going on. And like some of them are gay and some of them are just really religious. And like, it's just,
But I remember at one Olympics, there was a whole problem. Was it maybe Athens or something like that, where they had to like delay the swimming because like a whole green film had appeared like in the
I
pool.
forget. Yes.
And like the divers were like, whoa, this is throwing off our perception like of where the water is. And it was like algae or something was growing in the water. It was terrible, terrible.
I don't know, it's super fun. Tonight's more synchro, but I can't wait. I get so into it.
I'm excited again. I'm excited to be in the United States for the first time in a long time for a Summer Olympics because I have missed the steady coverage that the US provides. France, I was in both for all we did was watch so much judo and so much fencing and dressage and women's handball, which I oddly got into. So I'm excited.
I want to say that I think is a nightmare is that Maggie Haney, for another reason, right? She still comments on all of Olivia Greaves's social media posts. And the Florida coaches, remember, Riley McCusker suing Maggie Haney. Right. Riley and Olivia were pitted against each other at the gym. Remember, Olivia's mother basically called all the mothers that were suing them bad mothers during Safe Sport and leaked that out. And now they're playing the victim that, like, you know, Riley made it known to the coaches that she didn't feel comfortable going to college with Olivia for 4 years. And they were like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Really?
How are you going to like compete at two girls that have a lawsuit against each other and like all of these like really serious stuff? I mean, you called their mother a bad thing. Maggie Haney as a coach was saying, well, I hope Riley's nerves aren't so bad. I mean, think of all of the really nasty and negative things that they have put out there. And now she's putting out a TikTok video playing the victim and saying like, Florida dropped me. And they're leaking it to people like that, you know, Riley didn't feel comfortable with her there. Well, hello, like, hello,
mama, ladies.
Selective memory. Like,
yeah, clearly, yeah.
Mary Jo Greaves signed her name, called them all bad mothers. Maggie leaked who some people were in the Safe Sport process, said nasty things about Riley, and you know, come on, like this is like, and then she's like writing all over like Mary Jo Greaves' stuff, like your daughter deserves the best things, because you know Greaves never came out against her. Okay. Everyone else did. So she like, she's also not supposed to have any contact with a USAG member. And Olivia Greaves' mom actually owns a gym, so she is. So she's like breaking her own suspension left and right, like as
and
she's
publicly, yeah, like making it known. That's odd. Odd choices. Odd choices. That's the theme of this week.
And because of Maggie, like Riley's family has chosen to keep her like underground. She's not doing interviews. She's not in a million articles like Suni Lee before the Olympic trials. Like they are so concerned about Maggie, and Maggie, like they don't have her doing anything. She's done any of the documentaries. Like they're literally just trying to help her just feel protected and safe and as drama-free as possible going into this. So you think like, certain people, bad energy, okay.
To say the least, yowzers.
I know. But you know, Jonathan, maybe one day you could skate with Evgeny Kresnopolsky and represent Israel, because I think, you know what, why not? Okay.
Why not? Because anything goes. I
want to know, like, how good is this Pasquale Carmelango program? Like, what?
Let me try it. Give it to me, see what happens. I may be the one that breaks the cycle. Like we gotta come up with a new program for this kid.
Sexy, everyone. Okay, so Jonathan, we just finished the show, and I was just editing it to go post this to get it up in real time, and I was scrolling through Facebook.
Yes, Dave, did something come up?
Jason Brown came out of the closet, which, like, yes, but like, good for Jason, and like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, huge. Yes, I mean, you know what? It's because maybe Kaitlyn Weaver drove him to it. Maybe he felt inspired. Maybe.
Yes,
I think so funny. That's so funny.
You see how we were saying that it does matter, because I was already, when I said about Kaitlyn Weaver, you know that I backed it up by saying this is a really big deal. Because there are people that will say, why is this a big deal? People aren't, you know, and I think
maybe it's not a big deal for that person that's asking that question. It was a big deal for me again. It was
how
a big
about
deal
all the
for me.
disgusting comments that Alexia Yagudin has made about Adam Rapon, Jason Brown when he's skating, and then you're going to feel safe to come out. So, you know, he's liking awful stuff on Instagram, and Jason came out and he gave this whole thing, like he wrote this whole like beautiful thing about, I've grown up surrounded by beautiful, creative, strong, proud, successful, and supportive LGBTQ people. And like at one point I was like, is he just supporting Pride? And then at the end he goes, I believe that love will always win and every story will unfold differently for each individual. Mine unfolds a bit now. I'm gay and that is a story still being written. It's very nice, a beautifully written thing. It was,
yeah.
So
I'm happy for him. It's all like a part, and that's the thing when you like meet these skaters when they're so young.
Yeah, you
literally follow them on this like journey of growing up, and this is so clearly a part of his story. And
we always thought, and when we said it, would he compete better if he came out and just owned it and just good for him.
And this, I would just think any sort of ownership of self. Yeah.
Think about how much better Adam started competing after he came out.
Well, because there's an inherent, I mean, and it's a little bit what we were saying, Tim was talking about in the documentary. There's a little bit like your instincts or your baseline is something to hide, is something to be apologized for, is something to work against, not with. And so I just think in any sort of art form like this, it has to be so liberating that like when all we want to see from someone is their honesty. Yeah. For instance, like we were talking about like with Kaitlyn Weaver, some of the like romantic dynamics seemed a little unusual at times in their programs. Like when someone is just living it honestly, it makes such a big difference. And he's already such a beautiful skater. And I think he would only stand.
Everyone just loves Jason, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that was a nice start to the weekend. And it's so
That's
funny.
a nice exclamation point on the news of this week. That's really lovely for him.
Today has just been a wild day in skating news.
For a very like varied series of reasons. You even got me in a rental car, Dave.
All right.
Like, for this, I'll pull into a parking lot and give this some
time. It was so funny when I called you. I was like, Jonathan, can you?
I was like, I'm pulling over right now. But I'm so excited for him. That's such like a big moment for anyone. And so I'm glad he's able to share that. And again, for those people that will be like, who cares? Probably not you then, but someone else definitely does.
You've never had to come out of the closet to your parents or the skating world.
Yeah, exactly. So I just hope it makes someone else feel like their truth is worth telling. That's awesome. Good for him. Good for him.
All right. So
we'll send you your introductory packet.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Tickets to Liza and Joan Rivers DVDs on the way. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Playlists coming at you. Okay.